every NBA offseason, whether it's a team looking to change the makeup of their roster or it's a star player that has become disgruntled and wants to get out, there's tons of movement around the NBA in the offseason. And one of the pieces that could become a big domino to fall this offseason, could change a lot as far as the makeup of a lot of teams, is Donovan Mitchell. And so we're going to talk today about Donovan Mitchell, kind of the frustrations rumored around him with the Cleveland Cavaliers. How true should they be believed or not? And then what teams could be interested in moving on Donovan Mitchell if the Cavs do decide to move on from him. We're getting into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, I want to go ahead and get into talking about Donovan Mitchell. And so a report came out a couple of days ago from Cleveland.com's Chris Fedor saying that Donovan Mitchell has grown frustrated with some teammates, the lack of maturity, lack of focus, the playoff level readiness, and willingness to listen. And Donovan Mitchell, to his credit, retweeted this on Twitter or X or whatever you called it. It makes it say he's getting tired of y'all, right? The reporters, basically alluding to nothing is there. But a decision is looming when it comes to Donovan Mitchell. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert talked about it a couple of months ago that he wants to sign Donovan Mitchell to an extension, that signing Donovan Mitchell to an extension is the top priority this offseason. And we look at it, he can become a free agent in 2025-26. He would be turning down a $37 million player option if that is the case, if he ends up doing that. But, there's been no mistake about it that in adding Donovan Mitchell, it definitely made that Cleveland Cavaliers team a much better team. I don't think anybody's going to really refute that or combat that point at all if they become a better team. But despite like injuries around the team, things like that, there's been a lot of kind of a turmoil. The backcourt of him and Darius Garland don't necessarily fit the best either. And so it's leaves the Cleveland Cavaliers now in a spot where they may have to, whether they, if they want to admit it publicly or not, may have to move on from Donovan Mitchell. Now, there have been tons of rumors surrounding where Donovan Mitchell may want to go, things like that. And we'll talk about that. But I think ultimately when you look at the Cavs, they sit in an interesting place with their roster, right? Darius Garland, who we'll talk about towards the end of the show, which there are now some things that say he may be favored to be traded to the Spurs. Jared Allen may be out there at some point as well. And they sit in now at a point with their roster that they have to make some tough decisions, and maybe some decisions they weren't expected or really don't want to make. And so when you look at the Donovan Mitchell situation, if the Cleveland Cavaliers do decide to move on from him and make him available as early this offseason, it could get pushed to the trade deadline. But if they decide to do that, what teams would be available? And of course, the first team that you got to mention is the Los Angeles Lakers. They are going to be interested. I think that they have now kind of, with LeBron getting older, AD also getting older, you know that they had a reluctance to move on from Austin Reeves. I do think that if a star is available, that the Los Angeles Lakers may now not be as against the idea of trading Austin Reeves as what they were last year. And so because of that, that could put them in a place of trading for Donovan Mitchell. Now, I do think regardless if any team trades for Donovan Mitchell, a contract extension must be part of that trade to where, they agree to it if Donovan Mitchell agrees to at least 1-2 year extension, something to give them some extra time to make that determination, because trading for Donovan Mitchell, whether you do it this offseason with a season left under the contract, or, if you can convince him to pick up that player option for then 2 more years at least, that it's a huge risk to match the contract of Donovan Mitchell and then just have him walk away for nothing, be able to opt out, in that following offseason if that's the case. So it's a risk thing that teams are going to have to ask themselves. And so, but the Lakers are one of those teams that we know the Lakers are always thirsty. That's just the way that it is. They are always thirsty to make sure that they can stay competitive. And so because of that, they may be looking to make the move and may even be willing to do it even if he doesn't pick up his option. I think that would be a very bad choice if they do that. But the Lakers are a team that could become interested in Donovan Mitchell. But then you get the teams that are rumored, right? Donovan Mitchell, who is, from New York, and, it's been reported that he's always been fond of the Knicks. We've heard that the Knicks really would like to pair Jalen Brunson with either Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker, right, that they would be willing to do a lot to get that done? And that's the question that you ask themselves. Now, the Nets are also a team that are mentioned in that because they do have tradable contracts, things like that they can get involved in there. But it comes down to if the Knicks really want to pull the trigger on that, or the Nets with Mikal Bridges using his contract, things like that. That's going to remain to be seen. And so, I think that if I had to put a weighted scale on it, right? What is Donovan Mitchell going to be moved this offseason? I think that the Cavs are at the place where they're going to try. They're going to try to see where they are by the trade deadline. And they may even want to give some time for Donovan Mitchell to kind of make it more clear that he is willing to re-sign there. But I do think that there is a very big possibility that just does not happen. And then the Cavs have to do what's best for their franchise and look to potentially move on from a Donovan Mitchell. But guys, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you see it as the Lakers, like I say, because they're always going to be interested in trading for a player the caliber of Donovan Mitchell? The New York teams, because of the rumored mutual interest between the New York teams and Donovan Mitchell to go back to New York? Or do you think there's another team that could end up, coming in, much like we didn't expect the Milwaukee Bucks to be a team that traded for Dame, and they did? Could another team become available as like a dark horse candidate that is willing to give up what it takes to bring Donovan Mitchell to their team? But with that said, right, even staying on the topic of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Darius Garland is another piece that a lot of people think could eventually be moved, especially if they do decide to find a way to keep Donovan Mitchell if they want to do that. Darius Garland is probably the next most popular player other than Jared Allen that could be moved by that. And so right now, it looks like a lot of betting sites do have it as, as a possibility of Darius Garland being moved, and that the odds-on favorite right now is the San Antonio Spurs. Now, let's see, right? Let's see what happens with that. The Spurs are an interesting case because Darius Garland is still a extremely young player, right? Only what, 4 or 5 years into his NBA career, and we know that it seems like the Spurs are focused on adding a point guard to help Wemby out, right? They want a point guard to do that. Even though I think, with having Trey Jones there, had they had him starting at point guard earlier, but that's a story for another day, right? We'll get into that when we get into it. But I think that the Spurs being interested are listed as a team that could potentially make a move for Darius Garland. I don't necessarily hate that. Now, the Spurs are a team that, because they are a very young team, they could, and they have picks in this draft, they could end up being a team that does want to get a little bit interested. Maybe they have multiple. They have 2 top 10 picks in this upcoming draft. Maybe they do want to use one of those to bring in a point guard who's been around the league already, who they kind of know what to expect. But there's also something to be said with that they can go after like a Nikola Topic, right? A young point guard as well to kind of pair with Wemby, who's another international player, things like that. So maybe that's what they want to do. But in seeing that the Spurs are listed as one of the favorites to trade for Darius Garland, it surprised me, but at the same time, it doesn't. Darius Garland is a player who, despite playing on a team with Donovan Mitchell the last couple of years, still last year, 18 points per game. He only played 57 games, though, 44% from the field, 37% from three-point range. He's a career 38% shooter, though, from three-point range, taking 6 three-pointers per game, basically, on his career. Also averaging 6.7 assists per game over his career, right over his steal per game as well. And I do think that could be a potential pairing that could work for the Spurs and for Darius Garland in the long run if he can get out of it. So, when you look at Trey Jones, for example, he averaged 6.2 assists per game. Darius Garland, especially in a team where he does more ball handling, could definitely get more than that. So that's the opportunity that you're looking there. And I think that Darius Garland is still a player that still has a lot to uncover still left in his game. I don't think that Darius Garland is done developing yet. I think if you can get him with a coach like Eric Spoelstra, like Greg Popovich, that it can go a long way in helping that team develop as well, and helping him get reach his max potential. So I when I initially saw that they were listed as one of the favorites to trade for Darius Garland, it kind of surprised me for a second, but then kind of makes a lot of sense when you look at the Spurs. They pick at number 4, number 8, right? Could the Cavaliers, get that, right? Could they get that pick if they decide to move in this offseason? Would the Spurs in a weaker draft be willing to put up a player willing to trade a 8th overall pick for like a Darius Garland? Would then the Cavs be willing to bite on it, right? That's some of the questions that you have to ask yourselves on it. But the Cavs have a lot of rumors right now surrounding a lot of their team. Even with the Jared Allen trade, apparently that right now the Pelicans may be circling Jared Allen to potentially trade for him, and that's something to be looked at as well there. So, the Cavs are going to be at an interesting part right now. With Valanciunas out for the Pelicans, could the Pelicans come calling to try to pair or bring Jared Allen over to that Pelicans team? And then what does that mean for, the Cavs? Maybe if they move on from Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jared Allen, any combination of either two of the three of those players as well, that signifies quite a bit of the change in direction that they need to go. And so it's something that Jared Allen pairing with Zion and BI, right, and what they have going down there, it can make some sense, right? So the question then becomes of what would it take to get Jared Allen from that team, right? What would it take to get Jared Allen away from it? And is it something that they really be willing to do? So, that's something to be on the lookout for as well. The Cavaliers are one of the teams that, with a lot of movement from them, or a big move from them, or a couple of big moves from them, it can really change the offseason a lot for a lot of teams, much like when Utah decided to trade both Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert at a time where some places thought that they may trade one or the other of those guys. So let me know what you guys think on the future of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Who do you see being moved, if anybody, this offseason by the Cavs? And then what direction do they go? Do they go completely young, build around Evan Mobley for the time being while getting and accumulating more draft picks for the players that they're sending out? Or do you think they try to continue to strengthen this team, get closer to being a contender, and then maybe hope to convince Donovan Mitchell to stay? Let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.